LLMD working groups, or is that something that would that one could initiate? And I might be interested in.
Is this specifically around the semantic routing?
Semantic would be one flavor of it. I would more generally categorize it as, really prompt routing across models. That's the way I would look at it. And whether that's semantic or not is one particular flavor of it. But
so
yes, it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, so inference gateways scopes right now we're considering inference pool. That is the inference pool is going to have a single base model. So if you're trying to route across base models, that sounds more like semantic or under reactions, Maroon. But that sounds like more semantic routing, which we do have an AI gateway work group spinning up, which will probably will really hash out where that cut line is there, because some of it might end up being above inference pool, some of it might be at. It just depends on exactly what you're trying to do.
And in parallel, is there an effort to support multiple inference pools per EPP? More flexible than the one-to-one mapping thing.
What's the use case? That's we've intentionally not done that. Just curious what the use case is.
Because that too would be one example of a routing function, in this case happening to sit in the EPP. Sorry, by the way, I know I'm mixing up terminology from the LLMD project versus this project, so pardon me if I'm sort of cross-referencing here. But the point was that if an EPP could route to multiple pools of multiple models, then it has the potential for doing routing across models.
This is a topic that we've discussed a few times in the past. So I'd say maybe take a look at some of the notes, previous meetings. I think it's, let's pause this for now and pivot to the agenda, because we do have some topics that are already on there. And then Sanjeev, if you want to add to the bottom of the agenda, and if we can get to it, otherwise we can pivot and discuss it over Slack, or we'll move. If we don't get to it today, we can move it to the next meeting. I just want to make sure we get through some of these topics.
Sure.
Thanks. Mir, you're hosting things, so I'll hand it over to you. And thanks for hosting.
Sure. Nelly, I see your hand is still up. Do you want to add something before we start?
Just about the question that you asked, maybe you can Slack me. There is a possibility for EPP to support, again, that wasn't the intention, but there is possibility to support several models using the filter and the data layer that we will introduce soon. And we are about to release a blog to show how you can support multiple models with multiple APPs. It is possible. We are just about to show more clearly how it can be done, but feel free to Slack me and I can explain.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So with that said, and of course, you can also add an item at the agenda if you want to further discuss it at the end of the meeting, or not necessarily at the end when we go over the other items. So so we started this meeting less formally like we do usually in the meeting. So I'll start from the beginning. Welcome everyone to Gateway Inference Extension. I'll be hosting the meeting today. This is a CNCF project, so please be kind to one another, be respectful. Everything is recorded, okay? And we'll go to YouTube, so you can see yourself there. Okay, so let's start. So the first topic, EPP with V1 or V1 Alpha 2. Siwe, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so on last Thursday meeting, like the people in the community mentioned that currently it is better for like EPP just to support V1 inference pool. So now we add support for like V1 alpha 2 inference pool in EPP. So now like users can config EPP either with V1 alpha 2 inference pool or V1 inference pool. But my question is like, which default value should we use for EPP now? So currently we default to like use V1 alpha. So currently we default to use V1 inference pool, but I'm wondering like how the community thinks about the default value when like user doesn't set like in like EPP. Yeah.
Yeah, I see a few hands, but I'll just chime in first, if you don't mind. I think so. At least at this point, most of the gateways still don't have support in V1, and this is kind of disruptive. So the defaults, one of the main goals we set that defaults should be great always, and I think this is one good example. So you don't want to put default that doesn't work with any of the gateways, at least not the one of the leading gateways, right? We aim to support Istio, K-Gateway, GKE. I know GKE already has some kind of support in V1, not complete support, but some kind of it. So I think that we need to coordinate with our partners in the gateways to make sure they add support in V1 in their next releases. But until that happens, we should keep default as great as possible so that people can upgrade from 0.5.1 to V1 and get an excellent behavior like they expect and not break things. Yeah. Shmuel, I think you were first, right? Go ahead.
Actually, so I'll chime in. I agree with you here. I think the default should be V1 alpha 2 and not V1. But I had another question. This is a silly question. In your PR, you wrote CUJ. What is CUJ?
That's critical user journey.
What was that?
Yeah.
Kind of like a use case.
Critical.
Yeah, inside Google,
critical
we
user.
use critical user journey. It's like this acronym we have everywhere internally, for better or worse.
It's a Google a thing. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
Yeah, I was too shy to ask. Yeah, thanks, Shmuel.
No problem.
Yeah, I think I'm the minority here. It's a chicken and egg problem. I've seen that mentioned elsewhere too. Like, one of my concerns is I want gateway implementations to be able to confidently just support V1 and not have to support both, V1 and V1 alpha 2. And if we leave endpoint picker as V1 alpha 2 by default, then it's going to end up biasing some gateway implementations to feeling like they need to support both, right? Because, if they switch to only support V1, then they have, alienated any users that are, they made it more difficult for their users, right? That would be a concern. For transparency, GK, we're basically stuck supporting both anyway, so it doesn't, it's fine if we want to, to do whatever. It's not a big deal. But I'm worried that we may end up stuck with V1 alpha 2 longer than we want, where, often the best way to like basically if we imagine a world where hopefully the number of users of this project only continues to increase, the later we push a deprecation, the more users are hurt by that deprecation, right? So like, let's say we hold off one more release, that's a great deal. Let's say the next release is not until, I don't know, after KubeCon or something like that. I don't know when our next release will be. Then, anyone who tries this is stuck with a almost immediate deprecation. I don't know. It's not a hard and fast feeling for me. I just am worried that we may be taking a slightly easier path now, but at the cost of more pain just a little bit later down the road.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, we are discussing defaults here. So internally, I advocated for, hey, let's reach out to everyone, because yes, I understand that GKE is probably the primary person that supports V1 right now, but I'm hoping that this is just a transition state. So I don't know if we want to base our V1.0 default off a transition state, that in the future, near future, hopefully V1 should be the correct default. And, then it's just a matter of specifying somewhere else that, no, go ahead and make this V1 Alpha 2. And then once this short transition state is over, V1 is the default, and we're good for, how it's long. So that's my thought.
What do you think about doing keep V1 Alpha 2 default for this release, the current release, because the other gateways are still not ready, but announce upfront that in the next release we're going to switch to default V1. Something along these lines.
I think that's okay. I don't have a strong opinion here. Like I obviously have my bias, but my bias is mostly trying to make it easier for other gateway implementations that are out there or are being developed. It seems like we've got a huge swarm of implementations that are starting to submit conformance reports. Like I think 3 in the past 24 hours, which is great. Assuming there are more, I'd rather them just start directly with V1. But if we if V1 Alpha 2 is still our default at this release, we're causing more pain for them and for that's it, right? It's not really something that benefits GKE or anyone else. It's just it's more of a benefit for implementations of gateway implementations of this API that see a V1 and oh yeah, I should finally support this, and then they think, oh, which version of the API should I support?
I think this is one side of the problem, which I agree with your claims. The other side is the point of view of users of Gateway Inference Extension, and not all users are using GKE. Some of them may use Istio, some of them may use other gateways that they still don't have that support. So we cause the problem on the other side. So understand the concerns. I think it's better to keep the green path happy, considering the fact that GKE still supports both. So if we keep default V1 Alpha 2, everybody's happy. And we can still flip that flag. Shmuel, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was going to point out, Istio, for example, they've said, I think I posted it to the Slack discussion, I think it's Slack here someplace. They will not, their 127 release, which drops this month, will only support 050, 051, which means V1 Alpha 2. Their plan for supporting V1 is in the 128 release, which is in November. I asked what about doing a dot release in between. They said no. They said you're changing API versions. They don't want to do that on a dot release. So they're waiting for a full release. The question is how many now. You'll say, well, they'll have a beta, they'll have an alpha. The head, they're built off of main. In a couple of weeks, might support it. That would be fine. But a lot of people won't use that in any production use, obviously, because it's all some half-baked thing off of main. And I'd ask Daniel here, when does he think K Gateway will support V1? If he can say such, if he's willing to say such things.
Yeah, TBD. I think I created an issue and provided some information there. I've been heads down for a little while, just really focusing on getting 051 or K gateway conforming for 051. That's hot off the press. So yeah, I mean, between the multi-cluster and now, even before multi-cluster, this is definitely the highest priority on my plate. So I just need to kind of start digging into it and seeing what the level of effort is.
So what is your release cadence? May I ask?
Next K gateway release is 2.1. It's scheduled for about a week from now, but I think that's getting pushed back. So we'll see where that's at. Actually, what we were able to do is push out a patch release that is inference extension conformant. So that would be TBD whether the changes to support V1, inference full V1 would be acceptable for a patch release, or if we'd have to wait for K Gateway 2.1. So yeah, I wish I had a little more details, but I think the next big step is just digging in to see what level of effort it is to support inference pool V1.
So you also out. So even one release, I guess where I'm heading is that one release isn't enough. If the next release of GIE is in a month, that's not. I don't think that's enough for everyone.
I mean, I will say this is just a default, right? It's not like there's two different discussions happening here. One is what is the default, and two, when do we remove support for V1 Alpha 2 from endpoint picker, basically. They can be distinct. You know, just my previous experience with API deprecations, whatever, they're just painful whenever you do them, and the longer you wait, the more users you affect. That's and one thing I would say from experience of trying to support both is that it's a lot harder to try and support both than just to try and support one API version. So if we, as a project, are able to issue some guidance that we recommend only supporting V1 for gateways, I think that would accelerate the timelines that gateways could support V1, as opposed to trying to do both. But I don't know.
What if we just remove the default? Just make them specify it. It's just a pool ref. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from a gateway implementation, I don't have a strong opinion. If we want to make V1 the default pool group, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I think that the key is just making sure we give the heads up to kind of the implementation POCs that we have, so everyone's aware of it, and as they do their V1 work, and they know to, if they're not inference pool V1 capable, to set that flag.
Yeah, I think this is a good discussion. If I got it right, I think the majority are with the thinking we should keep V1 Alpha 2 as default, but I'm not sure. That was what I got. Let's, due to time constraints, and we do want to get enough time for the other topics, let's keep this topic like in Slack or in the issue directly. Is that fine with everyone? Can we move to the next topic? Okay, silence is an agreement. Yeah. So, Siwi, why don't you go ahead? I see next topic is also yours.
Yeah, so currently the Gateway API Inference Extension 1.0 release is scheduled for like August 14th. And currently the Inference Pool 1.0 API is still under review. And there are still 3 open discussions. So I'm wondering whether we can like reach an agreement about open discussion and we can push like Inference Pool API to 1.0 as soon as possible. So the first discussion is that whether we should keep the endpoint picker like inline or not. Since like the opinions diverge, so I know like people mention that it may not, so it may be difficult to change the endpoint picker config inline in the future, but since like it is not the case, so I'm wondering whether currently we can keep it as what it is now.
Daniel, I know you were very active in this topic. Do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the feedback.
Yeah, I can jump in and give my, so basically Kubernetes API conventions and backwards compatibility guarantees are a little funny in that they don't really take into consideration Go types at all. And so if the concern is that if we have some weird stuff for extension ref inside inference pool, where the and Daniel is calling it out, like, hey, we have, I think, 2 inline structs, which is kind of weird. And my point is that I think, I'm fine with either approach. We can change the Go types now and just kind of inline everything, or we cannot and do it later. I don't care. I guess we might as well go ahead and do it. But the key thing is it's not really blocking anything, right? It like, as long as that underlying CRD, like the user facing API doesn't change, or controller facing API in that case, like it's just Go types. But I think it's worth simplifying that. So yeah, I mean, mixed feelings, because when we simplify that, we actually complicate lives for implementations that support V1. So it's like, yeah, you win in one case and you lose in another case. I don't know. But yeah, I don't have a strong feeling here, but I'm fine to clean up the Go types. But my main point is it's like it doesn't have to block 1.0, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be in favor of cleaning. Sorry, I'd be in favor of just kind of ripping off the Band-Aid, cleaning up the Go types, inline.
Yeah, that's
kind of a pain in the butt, but at least we get it done and over with, and then doing it, months or a year or so from now, and making it even.
Yeah, no, that's fair. If we don't do it now, we may never do it. So might as well get it out.
You guys mean getting rid of the types, right? Just physically making it in line.
Yeah, physically making it in line instead of the inline
and adjacent,
yeah.
which kind of when friends is the same. Okay, got
it. Yeah.
So,
clean.
Rob, this is not like a user-facing change, right? So,
correct. The
is
CRD
it
should...
is it like a pain if we decide after GA?
No.
Okay.
It's a nice to have, but I don't think it's a blocker. But I think it is kind of like Damian says, it's cleaner.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Daniel on this, but I'm not with a strong opinion to that direction. So this is why I'm asking. But yeah, we can see what the others think. I'm with Daniel here.
It doesn't affect the gateways?
I mean, that's the thing. It does create more work for gateways. Yeah, whenever you import v1.0, it means you're going to have to do some refactoring of your code too, because you've got different Go types to work with. But in practice, if you're still using the old Go types and somebody's using a v1.0 CRD, it's going to work. Like that part is compatible. It's just the Go types are going to be a bit annoying.
I see.
Okay. So how do we want to close this question, this issue? Do we
I think
want to continue commenting on these discussions?
My take is that best effort. We'll try and get this cleanup in. But if we can't figure out a way by mid next week, we just punt it till the next release. But try and get it taken care of.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
We just need to remember that if we don't make it to this release, just open an issue, put it, with a target milestone, these kinds of things.
I also I linked to a couple others in there as well. I think you already opened them up.
Yeah, this one.
So, the app protocol. Yes, thank you. To me, my takeaway on this when I commented yesterday was basically this feels like a useful addition, but probably not something we should rush. I am sad to say I'm the person behind the app protocol field on service, and that felt very rushed. And the longer it sat, the more I regret what it looks like. It's just this empty string of like, put whatever you want here, free form, and everyone had different ideas of what they'd put there, and it was just chaos. I would like to learn from that lesson and do something better here, but for that, to me, that suggests it's a useful addition, but not something we want to try and rush into 1.0. Does that work for you, Damien?
Yeah. This was something that during my recent work, it triggered this thought of like, okay, how do we handle this? So we wanted to create this issue, and then since we know V1 is being released, just link to there. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. This doesn't need to be rushed, but something that we need to make sure that we're thinking about.
Okay, yeah. So we can take that, I think, after this release. So just to get everybody like on the same page, for the next release, the first candidate is going to be cut like in a week from today. So we need to be very careful with what we wish to add to the release, because the schedule is pretty tight, and we do have some like big milestones, big tasks that we still haven't completed. So it would be good if we focus our work on these things. I intentionally I'm highlighting this point because we do try to put last minute changes and try to push more things, which is great, but we need to be careful with that, because this is, I think, up until today, this is going to be the most important release, because this is the first time we go GA, right? V1. So it's more painful if we do a mistake here when comparing to 0.x. Okay, I see we have Rob. Yeah, another point here.
Yeah,
I haven't got to this yet.
So basically, the context here is in Kubernetes, the selector on service is just this. It's a map string kind of thing. Yeah. That's it. And the proper newer selector in Kubernetes also includes a match expressions field. So there's two fields. There's a match labels and match expressions. Antonio's point is, hey, if you want to be, if you want to be better than the past, we could consider doing a proper label selector instead of just the subset that exists in service. I think that's a good idea. I don't want to include match expressions yet, because right now most implementations are using service as kind of an implementation detail. So what we have here needs to be able to translate to service for many implementations. But I think the idea of using kind of a subset of that label selector type so we can expand to support it all in the future makes sense. So if we like basically add one level of nesting that is selector.match labels, that gives us that kind of future-proof API surface to add match expressions at some point in the future. So yeah, this would be a change. I think the way we do it is because it would have to be tied to a version rev. We would make this change only in V1 and not touch anything in V1 Alpha 2. But it seems reasonable to me if others are okay with it.
Would this be considered a breaking or a major change if we do it after V1?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to wait for 1.1.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even then, I think you need another selector field. You need a I don't know what you do. You need like proper selector dot match labels or something like that. So yeah, I think this one, in the interest of being future proof, would be one that's important to try and squeeze in to 1.0.
I like it, adding it just to V1 and using the following kind of upstream, using the label selector to make sure I understood you correctly, only including the match labels, and then at some point in the future we could add match expressions to it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
So intuitively, I'd like to say I'm in favor, but I'll take like a few hours, maybe a day to comment here. I'll just think about it a bit more to make sure I don't miss anything.
I think that's fine.
We can throw a PR out that shows what this change would be. I think that might make it clearer than just what I've described here. I think it's a pretty small PR.
Yeah.
And then
for back history, when it was just a few Googlers going wild, we did use the more sophisticated one, but then we switched to instead of reconciling on pods, we were reconciling on endpoint slices. So I just had the selector match what a service would be, because that was, endpoint slice was or service was indirect to endpoint slice. So there was no reason to add the sophistication. This stayed, even though we went back to pods. So all that to say, I think supporting the more sophisticated label selector totally makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I see the majority are in favor. So let's go with a PR and continuing the review there directly. Okay, so let's move to the next topic. Maroon, you have here 2 topics. Do you want to take it, the first one? KV Cache Scorer.
Hi all, this is my first time being here. I'm familiar with many of you. I work at LMD. I lead the KV disaggregation SIG. So this topic, I think we discussed this in some of the LMD calls and on Slack as well, on the LMD Slack. But it's about upstreaming the precise prefix cache aware scorer. For those unfamiliar with the scorer, so the GIE has the prefix scorer, which we consider to be estimations based, or one that works in estimate mode, since it maintains an index of routing decisions. The precise prefix cache scorer is based on an index that is maintained by KV events emitted from VLM in about real time. So in LMD, we've benchmarked the scorer extensively. It has value in high load scenarios. It does show when you get to stages where the eviction rate is high or frequent, having precise information can help a lot with load balancing. I see that Song added a topic on his issue of enhancing the estimate prefix cache scorer to make it more precise. in the manner in which it mimics evictions. But still, I leave that to Song. So we wanted to discuss the upstreaming of the score. I think we're in agreement that it should be upstreamed. We presented two topics on how to upstream it, whether by moving just the scorer and importing libraries from the LMD repo, or upstreaming both the scorer and the backing libraries. For briefly mentioning, the backing libraries are both the index that maintains the indexing information and the KV events digestion library. So based on the most recent discussion, I think we're also going towards the option of upstreaming everything, both the scorer and the libraries. And I didn't get to open an issue on a proposal for how to do that, since it's not while it will be done with PRs, it's not new code that is untested or should be significantly changed. We do have it working as it is. It is, in my opinion, quality code and bug-free. But of course, reviews will be welcome, and I think we should agree that only minor changes should be accepted if needed, and nothing too significant. From there, we can follow up with refactoring if required. Again, I don't think that will be the case, but we should be in agreement there or discuss it to get to an agreement. And we also need a plan on how to upstream the code, because it's about 2,000 lines of code, of modular and decoupled code, with about 1,000 lines of documentation and examples. So I'm guessing we want to PR it in stages. I don't think it will be possible to make functional PRs if they're split. So we need to get to an agreement on how to do that as well. I was hoping I'll have the issue ready by the time we discuss it, but we can start, can think out loud and follow up on an issue.
Yeah, I see Kellen, Song. I'm not sure who's first.
I think I was. Yeah. So as far as like that, the tactical plan of getting it implemented, it's fine. We can discuss it. I'm happy to break it into smaller PRs where we can, even if it's non-functional. If you just mention in the description, that's fine. I do want to kind of ask longer form. Migration. We have approximate. We have precise. I want to understand, and it doesn't have to be solved when we migrate up to from LMD to Inference Gateway, but do we need both? And if so, I think we should really document to help a user decide when they would use one or the other. That's kind of my only thing, but otherwise, I think this sounds great. I'd love to see that. And it does introduce a tokenizer into Inference Gateway, which is an interesting thing to consider. But yeah, we can figure out, as we may need more Rust or Python type tooling in the future. So anyways, I think that sounds good. I don't know if there's any other open questions other than the tactical ones, but I'll let Song go.
Yeah, and after Song, I'll address your point.
I guess, yeah, Maureen, you can take this. I think I just want to comment on this exact same question that Kellen had, but maybe I'll let you go first.
So on the scorers, I think that's also on the UX, I'd say that's a separate matter. So there are two options there, whether to start with two separate scorers or to go right away with the LMD unified one, where the current prefix cache scorer or the upstream one so both of them are prefix cache scorer. The current one is estimate mode. The new one is precise mode, similarly to how it is in LMD. And at that point, we discussed the overriding problem 2 weeks ago, something like that. So if we do it at the GIE, then we also don't have the overriding problem. It's one scorer, two modes. And on the second point, there are dependencies. So there is the tokenizer, and there's also a Python interpreter to support chat completions. So I think there was other work on that is dependent on Python, but as a sidecar, maybe it can utilize the Python interpreter that is embedded instead of like this can be both the tokenizer and the Python interpreter can open up the path for further development or features that depend on them. But these are dependencies that everyone should be aware of. They introduce build changes, they increase the image size.
We have CGO enabled already, so the build shouldn't change too much. But anyway,
Song, do you want to add
Yeah, I
something?
think. Yeah, I guess I think we discussed Maroon and I and Kafir, we are discussing from the UX perspective. I think so far we have been thinking about one scorer but different modes. But there's also option just keeping two different plugins. From the plugin configuration perspective, maybe that's better UX. I don't know, but we just need to open that and discuss. I think. In terms of these two scorers, I think this is my opinion. I think they both have their pros and cons, and they probably gonna coexist for a long time. Maybe eventually we'll converge on one, maybe. But I think at this point, I think they're gonna coexist. Like the approximate one, it's simple. It probably works out of box. You don't need a tokenizer, so it probably works for many use cases. And then the accurate one, it's more general solution. It's probably gonna work even for, if WillowLM decides to have a different cache management, it's probably still gonna work. But the approximate one may fail if they, for example, have a different cache eviction policy or whatever. So that has there's all to say. I think they're gonna coexist, and we definitely needed to do a very good job of documentation, helping users decide when to choose which one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good discussion. Again, due to some time limitations and to leave some time for the other topics, I suggest we just, Maroon, maybe take an action item to open an issue document. I think at least for me, what is missing is what are the advantages of each of them, right? Not only the differences. I understand the differences. Yeah, the estimated one is working based on requests that go through EPP, and the other one, the precise, is based on heavy events. But other than that, so for example, what are the advantages of the estimated one? I assume it has some advantages, and I'm not expecting an answer at this time because I do want us to move to the next topic. I just mentioned some points, some pointers that we should probably address on the issue that you open.
I think we should both address that and back it by benchmarking. But I think benchmarking will be more interesting once Song implements the enhancement he will mention. I did follow up benchmarking with a better configured estimate prefix cache scorer to match the evictions. It still lagged behind on HiQ but it did perform much better than the default configuration. So I think benchmarking will be much more interesting once Song completes the work on the enhancement, and will definitely provide trade-offs and recommendations.
Okay, so let's stop at this point. We are over the time for this topic. I'd like you, Maroon, to have some time to present the next one as well, and let also the others some time. So let's try to do it quickly. Maroon, you have an NI. Okay, just open an issue. Let's continue there. Moving to the next topic. So there is a new use case. We would like to add support. Maroon, I'll let you take it.
Yes, I'll keep it short. Details are in the doc link is nearest showing. But this use case is to support data parallelism mode in VLM. Data parallelism is super important for high scale MOE models, and it's a mode of deployment which in the current state, it makes the GIE or the inference, the GIE pretty much equivalent to a service. So it's very important to support DP in the mode that is ongoing right now, that is 1 pod per node. So in early days of discussing DP support in LMD, we thought that we'd have support or easy support for 1 pod per rank deployment, which makes AI-aware scheduling pretty straightforward. Each DP rank, which is a separate attention rank, is a separate pod that is able to serve requests. But in the current state, DP is being deployed as a 1 pod per node. So 1 node, 1 API, 1 VLM API server aggregates a bunch of ranks that do the serving. So 1 entry point for multiple virtual pods in this forum's perspective. And for that, we need to support this concept of virtual pods, or 1 entry point for multiple internal pods. So it's 1 actual pod with 8 internal engine cores for serving. I want to go over all of the options we considered, but the one option that both Itai and Nir and myself are suggesting makes minimal changes to the GIE and is a modular extension point that goes briefly. It's an expansion of the snapshotting period. So when a snapshot is made, DP pods would be fanned out to virtual pods. So each rank gets the same IP with some postfix or something to differentiate a rank. And the metrics, I should have probably started with the metrics, and each pod would be assigned or associated with its metrics. So on metrics, which I should have really started with, in the 1 pod per node deployment, the 1 pod that is visible exposes metrics for all the internal ranks. Each rank is exposed via labeled metrics, and this solution makes the association between the virtual pods and the labeled metrics. I think to respect time, it's very well described in the doc.
Yeah, so I think it was a good introduction, Kellen. I'll let you comment on that. But generally, I'd like to encourage everyone to just comment on the doc to respect the other topics on the agenda. But Kellen, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. I'm fully in agreement. This is the 3rd case I've heard for a sophisticated like data pre-processing step. And we might have some of these go async, because when we introduce precise, we want to run the tokenizer as soon as possible. I don't want to wait till the scheduler. So if we can have this data layer hook where we can do that, and then if we introduce Kaushik's inference work where we're using that to predict SLO, I want to do that as soon as possible too. So we can async these things, have this hook where we are maybe doing a little more intricate data pre-processing for the scheduling step, but it's based on request. I think that makes a lot of sense. Only reason I bring up those other 2 is because I think we want to generalize this to the point that all 3 could hopefully be in that same edition.
Yeah,
those are my thoughts.
So it would be good if you can comment either here, or we just open an issue and you put your comments there, and maybe you can link the other pre-processing topics, use cases, to make sure with that. If we introduce a new extension point, we need to make sure we answer all use cases with, to have it extensible in a way that can answer all things. So I'll park this topic here, but please add comments on either on the document or on a new issue that will be opened. Rob, a follow-up for the discussion with multi-cluster.
Yeah, no need to open the doc. this is just really quick. Met with a bunch of folks today that were interested from some from this group, some from Sigma Multi-Cluster. Had a good discussion. There's some open items covered in that doc, but by and large, I think we're, reaching some level of consensus around the first proposal. So I think the next step is likely to translate this to a GitHub proposal. If you have any thoughts, if you're involved, if you missed today's meeting, we did record it, got some notes, so happy to share those. Unfortunately, it's on my Google account, so I can't share it with the world, but if you want to see, I'm happy to share it with individuals as it's requested. Yeah, that's all. So just heads up, things are going well, and we'll try and get a GitHub proposal out soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Anyone would like to comment on this topic? Okay, silence. I like silence. Okay, Song, you're next.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time, but I don't need a lot of time. I just want to share some feedback on, I don't know if in this forum, I think it's mostly technical. I don't know, we have been sharing kind of user or customer feedback, but here's one. So Maroon already kind of shared his benchmark on the approximate cache scorer as well as the precise one. I think approximate does pretty well in certain cases. A precise is probably going to do better in certain use cases. That is all to see that we have better features coming. But I also want to share some of the user feedback on the existing upstream approximate cache prefix cache plugin. From internal team at Google and some teams trying to use it in their products, and they have shared very good feedback and showing great results compared to their previous solutions. So I think as a group we should just celebrate. On the other hand, I want to share some of the user feedback on for example, Maroon also shared that configuring this plugin properly takes some effort. We do have good documentation, to be fair, but we don't expect users to read all our documentation. So, and that appears to be some challenge. So, and some of these enhancements are one aspect is improve the performance and precision, and the other aspect is improving so the adaptive cache scorer configuration issue is trying to automatically dynamically configure this plugin, so users don't need to do a calculation, estimate, and configure it. So yeah, I guess we'll try to come up with a plan. I think a couple of folks, and we've been chatting on Slack to open this issue, and yeah, hopefully we'll come up with a plan when people have commitments to this, and yeah, looking forward to the next version of this.
When you're mentioning this adaptive prefix cache indexer, I'm thinking right away on adaptive scores, adaptive weights to scores. So I've been talking this week with Maroon about this topic. I'm not sure if it makes sense at this point, but maybe this is also something we should consider. So Maroon had some good examples for in which cases it could be useful. Maybe it's worth opening an issue on this topic as well, just to initiate a discussion around it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I know we discussed this. Yeah, so far this does not take that into consideration, but yeah, I can open an issue, but if Maroon want to,
yeah. Maroon, I see your hand.
Yeah, but on the adaptive prefix cache or the estimate prefix cache score configuration, I think it's super important, especially when auto scaling gets in the picture, because otherwise, even if you calculate, it will get inaccurate at some point. On the adaptive weight setting, I was hoping I'll make it like my onboarding into the GIE, like maybe contribute that feature, and I'll follow up with an issue under design.
Cool. Please do.
Okay, so we're just in time. You even got 2 minutes back. So if there are no other, yeah, we made it. Yeah, if there are no other questions or open issues, you'll get your 2 minutes back. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.